So, you want to learn how to pack these things? Let's go! What's going on, guys? Thanks for checking out this video. So in this one I'm going to be packing my Sabre 197. It's going to be my wingsuit canopy. And so yeah, let's get into it. So first thing we're going to do is basically lay out the canopy exactly as it would be jumped. So in a belly to earth orientation, we're going to make sure that the leg straps, the leg pads and all that kind of stuff are even, which means that the 3 rings are going to be even as well. Next thing, just making sure that my brakes are stowed, and that we have the excess, you know, nice and tucked into its little holders there. We're gonna end up doing that on both sides. As you can see, I like to use my foot just a little bit to kind of just keep things together. Make sure that you're checking your lines and make sure you're getting all of the twists out and everything like that. At least maybe, you know, once every weekend of jumping. So let's do a continuity check here now. We're going to walk or make sure that the continuity check is done all the way from the bottom of the risers, because if you start right at the slinks where my finger is right now, you may have twists in the riser. So just make sure that you're starting from all the way to the bottom. We're going to put the lines in each, or separate them by fingers, and we're just going to basically walk out all of the twists and everything from the bottom of the risers all the way to the top of the canopy. Now, I've intentionally put a step through in this one just to show you how to look at it and solve it. So you can see that there's a twist in it. Look at the top line that is there. You can basically just see that all you have to do is rotate it back through itself and get the majority of the fabric up and around. Now make sure that you're paying attention to the deployment bag as well, because I've gotten all the fabric around after I've cleared the step through, but the D bag is still, you know, step through right there. So make sure that you've got all of the canopy through and all of the deployment bag and pilot chute as well. Now, whenever I find a step through or anything like that, I always like to clear it first and then make sure, hey, let's start from scratch one more time, and we're gonna walk it up one more time just to make sure that everything's there. You can see that I just made the slinks even. That's gonna help you a lot as well in packing. So I've done a continuity check, shaked everything out, and you can see that all of my fingers are pretty much separated, which looks good. I'm gonna throw it over both of my shoulders, and I'm gonna drop and make sure that there's nothing between the front and rear risers. Cool. Then I'm gonna drop the other ones, and I'm going to walk the brake lines above the slider. So I've got the slider, I've got the brake lines in my finger right now, but I'm gonna walk them all the way through the slider, and you can see that I just have the brake lines now, and I'm just making sure that the brakes are not twisted up, or the brake line, the rear of the canopy is twisted up with the canopy at all. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my slider is good. If you're new and don't collapse your slider, obviously you don't have to fix this because it'll already be done, but it's always a good thing just to check straight up every single time that you pack. So make sure that those are all the way out and the slider is pretty much a perfect square. That's always good. From here, I like to throw it over one shoulder and rotate the entire canopy 90 degrees so that it is facing my right, and you can see that, and I'm using the slider grommets 2 and 2 to basically manipulate the canopy. So now what I like to do is I like to go in here and with my thumb just grab all of the nose cells and pull them out just a little bit. I find that this helps just me a little bit. You don't always have to do that, but it kind of aligns all of the nose cells right there, and then it sets it up very, very nicely where I can just go ahead and find the label, which I found right there, and then just count out 9 cells. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So we're all good there, and I'm pulling all of the cells together so that I can grip them with one hand. So now what I'm going to do is make sure that I rotate the entire canopy back around to where it is aligned, and I'll pull the risers apart, put the slider up against my shoulder and basically pin it between my shoulder and the lines, and then separate the canopy left and right. Okay, so you can see that I use the slider to separate it left and right. Now what I'm doing is I'm walking all the way back to the tail of the canopy, finding that label, and then I'm going to work each side from the back to the front. So I'm going to go on the trailing edge, find the break lines, 1 2 3 4. I'm going to push that out just a little bit, and then you can see as when it falls down, all of the D lines kind of line up together. So I've got those 4 right there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that away from me. So I've got the 4 lines right there, and I'm going to push that away from me, and I'm going to pinch right in the center. And as I pinch down, you can see that those lines all fall together as well. And so I have 4 right there. Now what I'm going to do is drop that, and then I've got the 4 pieces of fabric, pinch it in the middle, come back down, and have my thumb basically just hook those other 4 lines that are right there. Okay, so this is a super quick way of flaking, and you really don't need to flake too much, but it is definitely beneficial when it comes to clearing line overs and things like that, basically just making sure that everything is there. So what I'm pointing at right now is going to be that kind of wave shape that you saw, and you'll see it again on this next one. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the label again and work my way to the right side of the canopy, since we've already flaked the left side of the canopy. This method of just, using your thumb and grabbing 4 and working back to front, I find is really, really nice and easy. So what I'm going to do is find 1 2 3 4 of my D lines, push it outwards. All of those are going to go together. I'm going to just kind of karate chop it there, and then basically with my thumb of my right hand just come down, and all of my C lines are going to be right there together. Okay. So I'm basically just cleaning up my flakes right there. So 1 2 3 4, then I've got 4 pieces of fabric, 1 2 3 and 4, and I'm using my hand as kind of just a nice little stopper right there. Then I've got the 4 lines of my B lines and the 4 fabric pieces between my B and A lines as well. So if you know what you're looking at, this is very, very easy, but like I said, we're looking at that wave shape back and forth. Okay. So now what we're doing is putting the slider back, and we're going to have a quarter to the top, a quarter to the bottom, and all that kind of stuff. Top, bottom, left, and right. And I do something a little bit extra here, and you'll see that I take the stabilizer, which is that yellow piece of fabric, and I like to tuck it underneath the slider. Okay, and that makes sure that the slider is going to be the first thing that hits the air when the canopy comes out of the deployment bag and the cocoon is out. So I do the quarters on either side, and then I do the quarter on the back as well. And now what I'm doing is bringing out that front quarter of the slider there as well. Here's a little thing that I like to do that's a little bit extra. You can see once I move, that's the stabilizer there as well. That one is too, and I'll just kind of move that one around and cross them up. So I like to take those little stabilizer pieces right there and tuck it in between the nose cells and the slider, and this is not really something that's necessary. It really just kind of cleans up the pack job a little bit, and it's just something that I do for my little peace of mind, right? So we're going to do the one on the left side, and then the one on the right side as well. And like I said, I'm just tucking that between the slider that I've already quartered and the nose cells. I like to tuck that in a little bit. I find that works best for me. And so what I'm going to do is just tuck it in there a little bit, and then with the rear portion of the stabilizer, I like to kind of just cross them and use them as a way to kind of get all of the air out. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of come over there and just press it up against my body, and it will kind of force the air out. Make sure that you're kind of watching what you're moving around, and ideally you're not going to be wanting to move around the lines too much. So now we're going to go down, find the label for a third time. And I'm going to use my hand there and pull it up and over. So this is going to be the initial part of the cocoon. I'm making sure that all of the line excess is kind of going to be in the canopy so that my line stows come out as clean as possible. I'm going to pinch it off right here. I like to keep it really nice and tight, and then I'll use my leg to wrap the cocoon around, the left side of the canopy and then the right side of the canopy. So the next thing that I'm going to end up doing is look at my hand position here. I like to rest the lines on the top of my wrist and that helps support the lines and the canopy while I use my fingers to kind of free up, and I can use the fingers to roll a little bit more free rather than supporting the entire line. So I'm going to use my body as a platform and basically make those first few folds kind of like maybe 3 to 4 inches, and then as I continue, the rolls or the folds start to turn into rolls, and then what I can do is use my kneecaps to pinch off the fabric, and at the bottom rolls, that's saving my progress. Then what I can do is use the top, both hands at the top, to kind of do the top part, and then I'll hold that on and start doing the middle. So once I've got the bottom, then the top, then the middle, I'll go ahead and grab it underhand. And having it underhand really allows me to kind of manage it. Look how nothing is really falling apart here. I see a lot of people who don't make the cocoons tight enough, and their fabric is falling all over the place. And so this is really nice just to kind of lay it down and make it really easy. Once I lay it down, the deployment bag is going to, I'll just push that out towards the back side. Now at this point is when I'm going to cock the pilot chute, making sure that there's not any kind of line twists or anything like that between the canopy and the D-bag. I'll put my foot in there, and this is actually going to be a longer bridle, so it's a sky snatch, and so this is a 9 foot, and so you can check out my routing as I'm getting all the twists out. I'll put the D-bag with my right foot, and then with my left foot, after I get all the twists out here, I'm going to kind of create some additional length there so that I can go ahead and cock the pilot chute here. What I'm looking for in the pilot chute here is to make sure that the kill line is the thing that has slack in it. So I'll go ahead and reach in there, give myself a little bit extra slack on the kill line, and make sure that the trim tape is the thing that is taut. In this case, the trim tape on the inside of the pilot chute is going to be the black little piece of tape that is about a 1/4 inch across. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is basically just put my knees on there to hold everything in place, put the knees on the grommet, and I'm going to work all of the air up into the top and out of the canopy. So keeping everything from basically bottom to top and then center outwards. And so I'll work all of the all of the fabric down, get all of the air out, and then what I'll go ahead and do is I'm going to cocoon and kind of what I'm shooting for is the width of the deployment bag. Okay, so the more that I can get it like that, the more that I'm pushing upwards and outwards. We're trying to create tension on the entire thing to kind of make it more of like a cylindrical shape, and that's going to help you a lot. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of a break here and a breather. So once I'm done with my little nap, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the top skin on either side, and you can kind of see what I'm doing there. I've got one hand grabbing both skins of the top so that I can create that nice cocoon and maintain the entire fabric or the entire pack job right there in kind of a nice cocoon shape. Okay, so now what we're going to do is going to make the first chop, and what we're doing with this is I like to bag half of the canopy first, so we're going to maintain that tension on either side, left and right, and then what I'm going to go ahead and do is basically fold it back up on itself there. So that's going to create kind of our first S fold, and I think hand position is going to be key here, and also the pressure that you can maintain on there also while using your knees. Look at my knees right there. I'm not letting the canopy kind of slip away from me, and I think a tight cocoon is going to be the key to really having something stay here and nice for you, and also maintaining pressure on everything, all the work that you've already done. So now what we're going to do is look at my hand position here. I've got I'm trying to maintain both of the cocoon that I had earlier and the top skin as well. So I'm going to basically just pull the canopy up and towards me. I'm going to rotate it for me, and that's going to pull the deployment bag closer to me. I'm going to tuck the grommet part underneath, and then I'm just going to roll the canopy back into the deployment bag. Now this canopy is a little bit smaller than, it's like on the loose fit of this deployment bag, so it's pretty easy, but the concept is still the same. Basically you're moving the bag around you're moving the deployment bag around the canopy rather than trying to shove everything into there, okay? So look at my hands right now, I'm maintaining pressure on that so that nothing ends up coming out. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and rotate the entire thing upwards and get ready to make my second S-fold in this way that I'm actually bagging half of the canopy at a time, which I feel like helps beginners a whole lot. So I've made another fold in there basically in half, and now what I'm going to do is push that back down into the center to create the second S-fold. So I now have 2 S-folds, and you know, everything is right in the bag, and I can work the bag from the middle out with the pressure by doing the second S-fold once I've got the first part bagged. So I'm trying to move the grommet as close to the rubber band as possible. Play with your finger position here and kind of figure out what works best for you, but I like to make just a little bit of a bite. This is going to be a Fluid Wings semi-stowless deployment bag, so it only has the 2 locking stows. I love this bag. I go through rubber bands maybe once every 20 jumps. It doesn't put too much wear on the rubber bands, and it's much easier to pack. So once I have that first stow done, I'll go ahead and clean up that left side as you saw. And then sometimes these flaps come out on deployment, sometimes they don't. It really just depends on the deployment. But I'll go ahead and kind of just clean up the bag as I'm doing the second stow. Now what I'm really shooting for is kind of forming the canopy within the deployment bag to be more or less a cube shape, okay? I've got another video talking about that, but essentially what we're doing is we're really trying to make one cube fit into the cube of the container, okay? So the deployment bag has a length, a width, and a depth, and the container does as well, and so it's a rectangular shape, it's a cube shape, and so what we're trying to do is basically shape one cube into the other, okay? So I'll go ahead and once I'm done locking everything up and cleaning it up, I'll bring it all the way over here. Some people like to do their stows at the top of the risers. Right here, I like to just pull on the pilot chute just to make sure it's cocked, it catch air, but the main thing that I'm looking at is that that white kill line is loose and that the trim tape is taut. So now what I'm going to do is do the figure 8, kind of like S folds. I guess you can call them figure 8 folds. But basically we're figure 8ing the lines within this little pouch that we're going to close right here. And it just makes packing and stowing lines very, very, very nice and easy. I'm trying to just make them a little bit evened up. And what you want to do is start large and make the figure 8 smaller as you go in. So I'm going to lock it up there, the one side, and then lock the second side up on the top flaps, and then I'll do the left side and then right side right there. So next thing that I'm going to end up doing is we're going to stow the riser covers. And so I'm going to clean up the risers all the way, just like we did with a continuity check. I'm cleaning up the risers all the way from the bottom of the 3 rings all the way kind of to the line. So you can see that everything's, you know, flat, symmetrical. Even my toggles, I don't just throw them in there. I'm going to use the riser cover flap and pinch it off there. This is going to be magnetic, so I kind of just, for wingsuiting, I'll just kind of put it there. But look what I'm doing here. I'm creating tension. I've got one hand, my right hand, I'm, you know, anchoring there, and then also I'm pulling on the lines to kind of cinch down on those riser covers. I'm going to end up doing the same thing on this side as well, cleaning up the toggles and just making sure that everything's nice and clean. I'm gonna go ahead and maintain tension throughout the risers as I'm, you know, putting them in place, so I can pinch them down there, close the riser flap, and then with my right hand I'm anchoring, and with my left hand I'm pulling tension on that. It's going to help you a lot if you have a Mirage container or even just an older container in general, because those riser covers like to work themselves out. So the more tension that you can put on it, the easier and better it's going to keep it, you know, nice and cinched down, especially while it's on your shoulders. So next thing to do is kind of get the flap out of the way. I like to keep a pull-up cord right in that little flap there. It goes with me pretty much on every jump, and I don't have to go looking around the packing area for it every time. So I'll feed it through there, make sure that it's even, pull it all the way through, not making sure not to put too much tension on or abrasion on the closing loop as well. So like I said, we're going to try and fit this cube into the cube of the container, and the biggest thing is really going to be filling out the bottom corners. So I'm working my way for the bottom corners first, and I've got the deployment bag in there at a 45-degree angle. So what I'm going to do next is pull up, and you can see that that entire reserve tray kind of comes up and gives some space to where I can start filling out those top deeper corners. And like I said, these cube shapes, you want to get them to match up as best as possible. So the closing sequence is always going to be bottom top, and disclaimer, you know, pay attention to the manual first for the correct closing sequence. That's, you know, this is not financial advice, whatever, legality, you know, whatever. But we're always going to go bottom top, and then as you can see, I'm going to just kind of ratchet it down and use my knees. Look at where I end up putting my knees here. It's not going to be on the entire flap, but I'm just going to kind of try and ratchet it down, and with each ratchet I'm getting further and further and further. So look how much loop that I have out right now. To figure out which direction or which flap is next, you can look down the center of the rig, and you can see that my grommet is offset to the right hand side. Typically, and like I said, manufacturer is always going to be the best, but typically the offset of the grommet off of the center line is going to be the next flap. So I'm going to stick my knee on the closing loop to kind of save the progress that I've made, and since my grommet was offset to the right, I'm going to the right next. And so I'm trying to bring the flap around the deployment bag, and that's going to make things a little bit easier, along with saving the progress that I'm making. Now, make sure that you're trying to, with my left hand, you can see me kind of pushing down and making sure that that flap's going all the way around. The next thing I'm going to do is kind of change body positions here just a little bit, and just kind of ratchet it down a little bit better and make sure that it doesn't come off the ground. And then once I have a little bit of excess through there on the closing loop, I'll find my closing pin and go ahead and pin it whichever way is best right here. Like I said, try and make as much progress on each flap as you can, and then save the progress with your knee. And that will make closing the next flap a lot easier. So I'm going ahead and stowing the top part of the bridle excess here on that top flap. The next thing I'm going to do is end up pulling out the pull-up cord. Do not just rip it straight out, guys. Do not just rip it straight out. Make sure that you're going around the closing pin. You can pick it up just a little bit, but what you're going to want to do is make sure that you can get that that pull-up cord beneath the closing pin so that you can pull it out without creating any kind of abrasion on the closing loop. I see guys who do that, you know, all the time, and then they wonder why their closing loops are lasting for only 10 jumps. Okay, so I'm milking all of the twists out again, once again checking that the kill line is a thing that has got some slack in it and that the trim tape is taut. This is a sky snatch, like I said, so I like to fold it in half, and then what we're going to do is fold it in thirds. Make sure that you know, that we're staying below the handle line. That's what I found is really good. And then what we can do is go ahead and fold it in half again. Watch where I end up moving this. I'm gonna move it right to the bottom, basically the bottom of the container here. Some people like to stow the excess below the closing pin right now, but I say leave it open for right now. And what we're gonna do is just feed it back and forth. Watch my finger position here. I'm just kind of walking it up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, back and forth, and then the key to, you know, getting things to go in nice and easy to your BOC or the little spandex pouch is to wrap up the pilot chute and bridle as tightly as possible. So try and go ahead and maintain really good tension on all of the fabric here, and maintain, you know, look how nice and tight it looks, like a little Chipotle burrito. So try and make sure that your lifting from the lateral onto the left side of the rig. And what you can do is if it's too tight, just go ahead and pound it down just a little bit there to kind of ease out some of the bumps that are in there and open up the spandex just a little bit. Always look for proper tension. You know, obviously you don't want this thing coming out, but the more tension that you can have and the tighter of a pilot chute you can have there, the easier it's going to slide all the way on there. So I give it a few more smacks, and that just kind of puts it in easier there a little bit. Now you're going to tuck the bridle excess like I've done there, and the next thing that I do is really just roll up my pull-up cord and just put it in there a little bit. Make sure that it's all the way tucked into there. There's no excess sticking outside. That's a little trick that I picked up. And so make sure that you do a good gear check on it. And I like to just pound everything down, kind of make it shape it up just a little bit. That's not really going to do very much, but that's pretty much it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.